this is a cool one. Welcome to hashtag Learn the Song. If you're not familiar with this channel, a little different than others. We don't go over so much the note for note of tunes and leads, but it's much more the overall conceptual approach. If you're playing in a cover band, you're playing with friends, and you want to identify what makes the song, the key parts, the key takeaways, the key hits that you make sure you don't want to miss, and basically how to approach improvising over it. Now this song, Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up, is a great tune to add to your repertoire. If you don't have it in your mix, and you're in a cover band or you're playing with your buddies or whatever, even if you're not a country band and you're just a rock and roll band with a bunch of electric guitars, Garth Brooks is the #1 selling solo artist of all time. So that, what I'm trying to say is it's going to hit. 9 times out of 10 at the right place in your set, whether you're at a wedding or whether you're at a club or whatever, if you guys can pull this off, you have a singer that can control their airflow, and you got the, the diction so they can enunciate everything like Garth does so well, it's gonna hit. And it's a lot of fun because it's a very fast song. You probably don't have a lot of really fast songs in your set. And it's not that difficult. But it is more complicated than you might think. If you listen to it at first bat, you might just say, okay, it's a 1-4-5 in G, and it's got that little lick, which is true, but there really is a little more going on. So let's jump in. First off, it is a 1-4-5 in G, but it starts off just with a little lead on the 1 for 8 bars. And I think Garth has a violin on his track, but sometimes he has electric guitar players with him. But it comes in on that. It's that whole G minor pentatonic thing. Yes, you can, mess around with the major thirds, this, that, and the other. But for the most part, this is a rock and roll minor pentatonic kind of feel. If you're not familiar with those shapes or improvising with those things, please check out my other free videos on GuitarGate and YouTube and Facebook, where I can go into that in detail. But let's get back to this song. So it comes in on the 1. You're taking that minor pentatonic-ish lead on the 1, and then the verse starts. And the verse is a 1-4-5 in G, and you're doing that classic shuffle technique where you're doing a bar chord, then you're adding the major 6th. So that's going to be your main part. If you have one guitar, or one guitar and a keyboard, or whatever, or if you're just by yourself, this is going to be your main thing. Move over to the 4. That's the verse. Now, keep in mind there was no turnaround like you typically find in blues, where at the end of a 12 bar, it goes back to the 5 for a second before it goes back to the 1. There is none of that. So even though if you listen to a lot of blues, you'll be expecting to hear that, it's not there. So the intro's on 1. It's a little lead, 8 bars on 1. Then you have the verse section, which we just did, which is 4 bars on 1, 2 on 4, 2 back on 1, and then you're doing 2 on 5, and then you're back on the 1. So it's just, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. That's the basic deal. Now, it's important to note that in the verse, there's hits that you have to hit. There's where he says the words redhead, right? It's a... I can't sing very well, otherwise I would do those lyrics. But just know that on Redhead, if you're a band worth your salt, you got to hit that. And it's during the verse. And it's the only real hits during the verse that are very, very significant. But it's right before get your redhead back in bed before the morning. You got to hit Redhead. All right. So the next thing is it comes back to an 8-bar lead on 1, and then it's back into the verse. Same exact thing. Now, after the verse, and you're back on the 1, sorry, in G, right? You're back on the 1. Now, typically, this is where you played your lead again, but you're going to go into the chorus. So you're going to be a little volume build. And the chorus starts in C. And this is the ain't going down till the sun comes up part. And this is... And I mean, that part just makes it, right? So what it is, you know, you're doing 2 bars on C, you're doing 2 bars on G, but then on the end of 3, so 1, 2, 3, and like that, when you're going back to C, you hit a B flat. So that's a flat 3 if you're thinking in the key of G, which you have to hit with the band, right? So it's... Kind of messed that one up a little bit, but that's whatever. So it's on the end of 3, that B flat, right? You gotta hit that, and then when it comes back to rolling around the world in a pickup truck. Now here's the hard part, all right? It's this lick. It comes in. It's now what this is. Again, minor pentatonic. I'll talk frets first. So that's 5, 3 on the 3rd string, 5, 3 on the 4th string, 5 on the 5th string, 6 on the 2nd, 5th on the 2nd, 3rd on the 2nd, 3rd on the 3rd, bend up a little bit, and then you're going to hit your root, which is the 5th on the 4th string. In intervals, 4th, flat 3, root, flat 7, 5, flat 7, major 6, 5, flat 3, give it a little tug to the major 3rd like we talked about at the beginning, and then your root. And you can pick it or hybrid pick it. It works better when you hybrid pick it. But the question you're all going to ask yourself when you hear it, I hear rolling down around the world in a pickup truck, and then the lick happens. And you're like, when is that? Well, it's on 4. And the best way to not screw that up is to hit it with the snare, right? So if you have your drummer, you know, rolling down the world in a pickup truck. It's on 4. So if you have your kick, snare, 1, 2, 3. And then it's a little triplet feel over it. It's kind of tricky, but if you listen to it a bunch, you'll get it. So that's the lick, and remember, it's on 4. Now, when you come out of that chorus, then it's a solo over the verse. You take a solo straight over the verse, all the way through the 1, 4, 5. Now, something happens here which is really interesting for the second half of the song. Okay, so for the second part of this song, it's very interesting. You have 2 more verses and 2 more choruses, and then there's like it's a fake ending, right? And then you solo to the end with a big hit. That's the overall thing. So with the verses, okay, you're coming in with the 3rd verse, and now this verse is still a 1, 4, 5, but it's just hits, right? And so it's... Right? So it's just 1, 4, 1, 5, and then it builds, right? So it's like a partial verse lyrically, right? And then it builds on the 1. So again, it's the hits with the 1, 4, 5, and then it builds on the 1, right? The whole band builds up, and then you get louder, and then you reach your maximum volume when you get to the 4 chord, when you get to the C. And if the whole band's going to walk up together, you can use that classic kind of blues thing where you walk up G, A, B flat, B to C. So basically you're skipping G sharp, but then it's chromatic. And you're still doing this whole thing, and you're soloing over that 1-4-5, right? Play the chorus the exact same way, nothing different. So that's the third verse and that chorus. Now for the final section, you have the fourth verse. And now the fourth verse, it comes in quiet, and there's no 4 chord. So it's, you know, so it's that same build-up, right? Where you're building up to the next chorus, right? But the verse starts at a very low volume. You're starting down here, and then as a band, you come up together. There's no 4. So you're just on the 1, on the 5, on the 1, da, 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 da. Build together, get to the 4, and then something cool happens. You're still taking that lead, building up to the chorus, but at the end of the lead, everybody in the band has got to hit this lick and then end on C to hammer into the chorus, which of course is a C chord. And the lick is... So after you do the, you're building up. Here's your 1, 5. Then you finish the chorus just like always, and at the end there's a big hit, but it's a fake ending. And you could end the song there, but I think it's totally cool to do it like Garth and his band does. But have that be a fake ending, and then go basically all the way down to the floor volume-wise, and then slowly build back up. I would advise, you know, the singer or whoever to kind of do a vocal cue to when the form's going to start. But then solo over the verse section, that 1-4-5 shuffle thing, as many times as you guys want to, as many pieces as there are in the band. Do some call and response, back and forth, and then when you go to finally end the song, obviously have some type of cue so you all know, but then hit that same lick again, like Garth does. He's like, and then it's like G, F, G at the end. So plan that out. But that is the second half of the song, right? So you have a third verse, which is hits on 1-4-5, but it's a partial verse that builds into the chorus. Then you're on to the final verse, and that verse is just a 1 and a 5, starts at a low volume, builds the same way as you would towards the chorus in the lead section, but right after you're about to be done with the 5 chord on D, you hit that... Everybody in the band's got to nail that, right? You know, fills with the drums, the whole thing. Make it big so that final chorus is huge. At the end of that final chorus, you do that fake ending, and then again, lower volume, maybe use a vocal cue as you come back up to when you start to form, and then you just solo, just go bananas, take leads. Do some back and forth if you have horns, if you have multiple guitars, or whatever you have, but that's your point to really just kind of, you know, have a great time. And again, when you're taking these leads, you are aiming towards that G minor pentatonic. Yes, you know, fiddle around with teasing between the... that minor third and major third thing. But a lot of flat 7s. Yeah, don't think about it too much. Just think G minor pentatonic and, you know, try to sell that bluesy thing over this straight country tune. And I'm telling you, this song will hit. And people won't expect it. And it's hard to pull off, right? Because it's fast. It requires a lot from the vocalist. All these little pieces, right? You got to make sure you hit redhead in the first verse, okay? You got to make sure you get that, you know, and all those... Got got to make sure you get those. You got to make sure that the third verse has those hits. The fourth verse is just the 1 and the 5, and you get to get all those builds, right? So, there's a lot into this tune, but it's simple. It's not complicated theory-wise. But if you guys can pull this off, I'm telling you, it will crush in a club, at a wedding, anything. So I implore you, put it on your list. You'll be happy you did. And that is Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up. If you guys like this Learn the Song approach, please subscribe. Please like, share, tell your friends, and drop me a link in the comments, telling me what you want to hear, what you'd like to see me break it down in the future. And I'll see you on the next Learn the Song.